Hi guys, again. I actually haven't been posting any videos for the last 2 weeks, and it's quite a long time. It's just that I've been busy with some work and I couldn't really think about anything to post these 2 weeks. But don't worry about that because I'm here today for you with the most important, like, educational books that I've read so far. And actually, I'm not into like psychological and educational books that like very much. Like I'm most of a fantasy fiction junkie, but this time I would like to recommend like 7 books of the most important psychological novels and books that I've read so far. So if you're interested, keep watching till the end of the video because you are going to find out and to discover some interesting books to read in your list. So, so my first book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Before I start, this book is a self-help classic by the author, and which is primarily intended as a companion book to Dale Carnegie classes on how to be a good salesman, in which he gives like techniques that work very well in the context of sales and public relations, and those relations are not expected to be deep or any kind of long-lasting relationships. The author presents a technique and ways to how to influence people, how to and he explains the behavior patterns and how to exploit them in order to have your impact on others. The book can be really beneficial for people who are in the fields of business, like salesmen, anything like marketing. The book was primarily suggested or recommended to me by a friend. I attended her workshop on sponsoring and the how it was sponsoring and how to make your first impression, how to do sponsoring doc, and how to like to convince the sponsors to take your offer or take your deal, etc. That's how I discovered the book, and it was really interesting after I read it. I highly recommend it for anyone in the field and it might actually be extremely helpful. Uh, this book describes the psychology of people and how to I don't know how to take advantage of their like behavior and their personalities in order to influence others. Actually, it talks about the first impression, how to make your first impression as good as possible, and how to improve your personal and professional experience and personality as well. So I really recommend it, and it's a really a book, and it's so very popular anyways, and I think everyone in the field might heard of it anyhow. So yeah, it would be really helpful for anyone who wants to improve their personal and professional relationships. And in this book, the author encourages people to use their understanding to enhance their public speaking and their self-esteem. It's a great book that you absolutely have to read. And now, my one of my favorite book, and I can't get enough of this book. It's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Richards Covey. So I don't know how to explain it, but even if you don't really read this book or at least finish it, I would recommend, I would really like you to know what the book is exactly about. And it's a highly, like, extremely helpful book that I've read so far, in which Covey presents an approach of being effective in attaining goals by aligning ourselves to what he calls true North principles based on character ethics, and it presents these universal concepts in the book and defines effectiveness as the balance of obtaining desirable results with caring for what or that which produces those results. He illustrates this by referring to the fable of the goose that laid two golden eggs. Actually, the book is kind of deep and uses some scientific explanations and some psychological terms, but it's really profound and beneficial for anyone, and I highly recommend it for any for all kind of people. It's not really intended for a special category of people. It's helpful, and it's not very very difficult to read or to analyze. It's kind of easy to understand, and Covey has some arguments about what he calls the personality ethic, and he sees as prevalent in many modern self books. He promotes that what he labels as the character ethic, aligning one's values with so-called universal and timeless principles. So Covey is deliberately and mindfully separating principles and values, and he suggests some concepts that help you through habits and through principles and ethic of based on your personality and how to polish them. And yeah. The book explains how many individuals who have succeeded in their life and achieved high degrees and or success still find themselves struggling with their personal development, and how they develop their inner effectiveness and growing healthily relationship with other people. Actually, he believes the way we see the world is entirely based on our perceptions, and we have to change the given situation. We must change ourselves, and in order to change ourselves, we must be able to change our perceptions. The book mentions and explains the dependence and how to go from being dependent to being independent, and explain the interdependence about between people, etc. And it's really kind of profound, and you have to absolutely read this book. Now, the book is Brain Rules, 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving at Work, Home and School by John Medina. Actually, the author does a great job of finding relevant research, and the main topics of this book is about productivity and relationship management, and it's a very easy to read and very much worth checking out book. Most of the time, I've seen that this book interests more the business and leadership-oriented crowd, and they have the right to, because it's really interesting and it's really educational, and it gives you the ways how to thrive and how to grow and how to build your productivity and relationship management. It's a great deal of the book, so I highly recommend it for you guys. It's worth checking out. The other book is The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. I don't actually know how to spell his name, and I'm sorry for that, but anyhow, this classic book goes into great details on how to form our habits and how we can use them to our advantage. The author uses like multiple and different real world examples to show how we can achieve great things that we can never imagine just through simply implementing effective and positive habits. So through this book you will read different examples and you will learn the key of regular exercise, how to build your productivity and success, and how you can start building those effective and positive habits today to help you achieve your goals and to transform your life in the long term. And it's a really good guide for you to implement and to create, to build positive and effective habits to grow yourself and to build yourself into your personal and to grow your personal whatever they call it. Anyhow, I'm sorry, it is that sometimes I can't really say what I want to read. Anyways, it's a great book and I really love it and enjoy it, and I've always seen this book in the top lists of psychological and educational and self-help books of all time. So I highly recommend it for you guys, so check it out. Another book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Before I start, this book really had impressed me a lot, and it's based on a real experience that the author went through. It's actually it actually represents his memoir, through which he explains his logotherapy that comes from the Greek word logos, which means meaning in English. The book is popularized through his incredible memoir and shows us the true account of what the author lives and spent in Nazi death camps. He actually labored in 4 different camps during World War II, experiencing and witnessing unspeakable atrocities, and Frankl went on to survive and embrace a world that was fundamentally cruel and bleak to him for so long. Speaking from his own experience, the author and those for the author speaks also of the experience of those of the many patients he helped before his practice through his therapy, and he reveals how meaning and purpose in life allow us to endure adversity and embrace the inevitable and often confusing reality and suffering in life that life brings to us eventually. He wants us to or he like the book helps you to know how to cope with your pain. You cannot evit pain is not inevitable, and through suffering you can make a great deal about your life, and you can never evit being in pain, and you have to cope with it, to endure it, to exploit it, and to make it a push for you for great deals of things later. And Frankl's theory wants you to maintain that the will to meaning is the core driver of the human personality, and the individual should primarily proceed in the direction of their life energy. And I really like the books that are based on real experience, because the author went personally through these in his life, and based on his experience and the therapy and the experience of others that he helped, he gave us a lesson about how to deal with life pain and how to go through life. And it's kind of deep, and immersed, and I really recommend it. It's a great deal of a book, and I love so much. You can find it always on the top list of psychological um, and self-help books of all time. And how Viktor Frankl is a psychiatrist, and he knows, and he put a great deal of meaning into this book. So I really love it, and well, it's worth reading. And last but not the least is Think Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, who is the winner of Nobel Prize. That in this book, he gives us a grand overview of his lifelong research as a psychologist and helps us better understand the mind and how it shapes our behaviors. Actually, it talks about that our thought is divided into two thought process systems. System 1, which is the fast thinking process, and the system 2, which is the slow one. And he explained through numerous examples that how our decisions are often hampered by using the wrong thought pathways, and we should know how to use the right one, and what we can do to combat these controversy. So you will learn how the fast intuitive system 1 often results in overconfidence and poor prediction, because it's really like chaotic and doesn't really mind thinking thoughtfully about something. And how the slower one, which is the rational slow system 2, that can lead us to disregarding our important gut feelings and results in poor decisions based on a rigid logic. So the importance of this book is how it explains the way and the process of thinking of the mind of human being, and it shapes the idea in a really great way. And the book is extremely interesting for anyone to read. It's not really difficult to read, and it's a very interesting book. I really recommend it too. And now let's go to the next book, the final book, which is Mindset: The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. Well, Dweck's Mindset is the book that coined the terms fixed and growth mindset, a pivotally important book for many individuals. What is interesting in this book that it shows us how the way we think about our abilities has a profound impact on our learning, growth, and success. What a person thinks of himself has a great deal of impact about how he will grow through time and how he will learn, how he will succeed. So the book shows us how to cultivate and how to improve a growth mindset that precludes healthy flourishing of the individual's talents, positive meanings, abilities to foster healthy relationships, and much more. So this new psychology makes us go through a successful way to set up a mindset that will help us grow and believe in ourselves. So as he mentions the book, that the person who believes in his ability will grow like much faster than others because he believes in himself. The mindset and the psychology is important for the person and how he will grow, because when you believe in yourself, you can do anything. Actually, I love this book because it's really helpful and it make you feel so good about yourself and how farther you can reach and how farther you can be and grow, and it's really awesome. So I really like this book and it's highly recommended for you to read. So here we come to the end of our video, and I like to mention that I put those 7 books on the list because as I told you, I'm not really into I was not into psychological and self-help books before, but I've tried to like search for some recommendations, and after I read those books, the most recommended books of all time, I didn't get disappointed because they were really interesting, uh, and they were really great and they're helpful. And I'm thinking about reading more about these kind of books because they're like, I don't know, they help a lot, and they're a great deal of um, help for everyone that might want to. And even if you don't need that kind of help, they are very important just to check out. And I hope you enjoyed my video, and looking forward to do more, um, more like beneficial and valuable content in here. And okay, see you guys in my next video, inshallah, and take care, everyone.